right, for lesson 3 in unit 3, we are going to do combining like terms. Terms in an algebraic expression are separated by addition and subtraction operations. In the expression 3x minus 2y plus 8, there are 3 terms. So when we did this before, we talked about this a little bit when we did the distributive property. We split the terms in the parentheses. So you're going to look through your expression. Anytime you find an addition or a subtraction sign, you go ahead and you put a line in front of it. So I'm going through, I see that this is a subtraction sign, so in front of it I'm going to put a line to split my terms. Keep going through, I see there's a plus, and so I'm going to put a line in front of it to split my terms. So now I see that there is 1, 2, 3 terms in this expression. In the box below, it says list the number of terms in each expression. So for our first one, we're going to go through, we're going to find a plus sign or a minus sign, and we're going to put a line in front of it. So going through my expression, here's a plus sign, so I'll put a line in front of it. Here's a minus sign, so I'll put a line in front of it. Counting my terms, this is 1, 2, 3 terms, so this expression has 3 terms in it. Moving down, 2y squared plus 7. Find the plus sign or the minus sign, put a line in front of it. Here's my only 1. So this expression has 2 terms in it. Last one on the side of the box is same thing. Look for a plus or a minus sign, put a line in front of it, count your terms. This is 2 terms, so this expression also has 2 terms. There are 3 more examples on the other side. Go ahead and try to do those on your own. Now that you've had a chance to do those 3 on your own, let's go ahead and go over them. Looking at our first one, splitting it into our terms. I have 4 terms in this one, so 4 is the number of terms. On my next one, going through looking for all of my pluses and minuses, putting lines in front of them. This one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 terms, so this expression has 5 terms. Last but not least, same thing. Go through looking for your pluses and your minuses. I see that this expression has 1, 2, 3 terms, so 3 is the number of terms. Now we've talked about terms, we need to talk about like terms. Like terms are terms that have the same variable. Remember, that is this letter that represents an unknown quantity, so like x or y or something like that. Like terms have the same variable and they're raised to the same power. Power means the same exponent. Finally, a like term that is made up of a number without a variable is a constant. We've already kind of talked about it. That's where you see something like maybe it says plus 4 or maybe it says minus 9. Those are constants, and constants are always like terms with each other. Underneath it says circle and link all sets of like terms. So let's start with the first one. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to split it into its terms. So go through and look for your pluses or your minuses and draw a line in front of them. Here's 1, here's 1, here's 1. So this expression has 4 terms in it. Now I'm going to put a box around my terms that are like terms. So I always start with the first term in the expression. This one is 3x. And I want to look for everything that would be considered a like term to 3x. I'm going to move to my next term. It is a positive 5y. This is not a like term because they don't have the same variables. So I am not going to put a box around the 5y. Move to my next term. I see that it is a positive 2x. They have the same variables. They both have x's. And those x's have the same exponent. In this case, they don't have one. So because it has the same variable and the same exponent, this is considered a like term to that. So I will also put a box around this. Finally, I'm going to look at my negative 4y. Negative 4y does not have the same variable as my first term, which was an x, so I'm not going to put it in a box. Now I'm going to change my color and I'm going to change my shape, and I'm going to circle my positive 5y. Now, if I've already put a box around it, I can't also put a circle around it. So I'm just going to look through what's left in my expression and see if I can put any more circles. Negative 4y is the only thing that's left in my expression. Negative 4y has the same variable as the 5y, and those variables have the same exponents, so I'm also going to circle negative 4y. Now the last thing to do is to link the like terms. So the terms that are in the same boxes, we have already said that they are like terms, so I'm just going to link them together. So 3x and a positive 2x are like terms because they have the same variable and that variable has the same exponent. And a positive 5y and a negative 4y are also like terms because they both also have the same variable and the same exponents. Let's do another one. First thing we're going to do is we're going to split it into its terms. So here, here, and here. Now I'm going to start with the beginning. The first term is generally where I always start, and I'm going to put a box around 2x squared. Now I'm going to look through all of my other terms, and if it is a like term to 2x squared, has the same variable and the same exponent, I will also put a box around it. So the next term is a negative 3x. They do have the same variable, but you'll notice they don't have the same exponent because this x has a squared on it and this x does not. So that means it is not a like term because they have to have the same variable and that variable has to have the same exponent. So I'm not putting a box around a negative 3x and I'm moving on. Plus 5x squared, I see that it has the same variable, it also has the same exponent, so I'm going to put a box around 5x squared. Looking at my last term, it is a negative 9, and it is not have a variable, and that variable does not have an exponent, so it is not a like term. Okay, changing color and changing shape, I'm going to put a circle around negative 3x. So now I'm looking for any term that has the same variable and the same exponent, which this doesn't have an exponent. So really I would be looking for anything else that has an x. Looking down through my expression, negative 9 does not have an x, so it is not considered a like term, so I'm not going to put a circle around it. Changing colors, changing shape, I'm going to put a triangle around negative 9. Looking at this, there is no variable with this, which makes it a constant. And I said earlier, all constants are considered like terms. So now the last thing for you to do is to go through and link the like terms together. So I'm going to find the boxes that I've already identified my like terms in, or my circles or my triangles or whatever my shape, and link them. So I see that 2x squared has a box and a positive 5x squared has a box, making these like terms. Negative 3x does not have any like terms, so there's nothing to link it to, and the same for a negative 9. All right, there is one more on this page. Go ahead and do this last one by yourself. Pause the video, try it out. Once you finish, unpause the video and check with what I did. All right, now that you've had a chance to do it, let's go ahead and go over it. First thing we're going to do, split our terms. So it looks like this expression has 5 terms in it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Now I'm going to start by making a box around my first term, 10x squared. And remember, I'm going through and I'm looking for anything that would be considered a like term to 10x squared, meaning it needs to have the same variable and the same exponent. So our first term after that is a negative x. And remember, that's like having a negative 1x there. They do have the same variable, but that variable does not have the same exponent, so it is not a like term. I'm not going to put a box around it. Plus 5 doesn't have a variable at all, so it's not a like term. Our next one is plus 7x squared. I see that it has the same variable. That variable has the same exponent, so I'm going to go ahead and put a box around positive 7x squared because it has the same variable and the same exponent. Looking at positive 14, there is no variable, makes it a constant, and it is not a like term. I'm going to change my color, and I'm going to change my shape. I'm going to circle this negative 1x or negative x, and I'm going to look through for like terms through the rest of the expression. Positive 5 does not have a variable, so it is not a like term. Positive 14 also doesn't have a variable, so it is not a like term. So I'm going to change my shape and change my color. This time I'm going to draw a triangle around a positive 5. Looking through, I see that 14 is another constant, and all constants are like terms with each other, so I'm going to go ahead and put it in a triangle as well. And then my last step is to go back and link the like terms. So 10x squared and 7x squared are like terms because they have the same variable and the variable has the same exponent. And I'm going to link positive 5 plus positive 14 because they are both constants and constants are like terms, noticing that the negative x or the negative 1x does not have any like terms in this expression. Go ahead and turn the page. All right, now we're going to go ahead and start combining like terms. So we talked about terms and how to split an expression into its terms, and then we talked about how to identify if they're like terms. So now we're going to go ahead and combine them. Now this first one is the most basic example of how to combine like terms. They're usually a little bit more complex than this one, but here we go. First thing we do, split it into terms. So split it in front of the minus sign to make it into, its term. Okay, after you split it, then remember you go through and you identify which ones are like terms. So I'm going to put a box around 7x. And then I'm going to look through the expression for anything that is a like term to 7x. Negative 2x, they have the same variable. Those variables have the same exponents, so I will also put a box around these. Now I'm going to link my like terms. So 7x and a negative 2x were like terms, so I'm going to link them. And now we add them. We always, always, always add like terms when we are combining them. So to add like terms, you add the numbers and then you keep the variable. So 7 plus a negative 2 is 5. So I'm going to write 5. And then it's x, so I keep the same variable. So 7x plus a negative 2x is a positive 5x. And if you struggle with adding integers, you can use the calculator. All right, let's move down to w. This is more traditionally what you're going to see when you're doing your assignment over combining like terms. So here we go. First thing, we always split them into their terms. So find the plus sign or the minus sign and split them into their terms. Now we go through and we identify which ones are like terms. Excuse me. So 4y, I'm going to put a box around it. And then I'm going to look through and find all of the other ones that are like terms to 4y. Plus 8 doesn't have a variable, so it is not a like term to 4y. So moving to the next expression, it is a negative 3y. I see that they have the same variable. That variable has the same exponent, so I'm going to put a box around this as well. I'm going to change color and I'm going to change shape. I see I have one constant, so I'm just going to put it in its own little circle. If I had another constant, I would put a circle around it as well. Now I'm going to link my like terms. So 4y and a negative 3y are like terms, so we're going to link them and add them. 4y plus a negative 3y, you add the numbers in the front, keep the variable. So 4 plus a negative 3 is 1, so I would write 1y. And then you'll see that there is nothing to combine with the plus 8, so all you simply do is just drop it straight down, so plus 8. 1y and 8 are not like terms. They don't have the same variable, so they cannot be added together. So this expression is your answer. So when you combine 4y plus 8 minus 3y together, you'd combine the y's to get 1y, and there's nothing to combine with the plus 8, so you just write plus 8. So once you combine all of the terms in this that you can, it is 1y plus 8. Now, just quickly to point out, remember 1y can also be written as just y plus 8, because in the second expression, the 1 is implied. All right, let's move over to our next example. First thing we're going to do, go through and split it by its terms. So looking through this, this has 4 terms in it. I'm going to start by putting a box around 15x. And now I'm going to look for all terms that are like terms to 15x, so I can also put a box around them. 7y doesn't have the same variable, so I can't put a box around it. Negative 3x, they have the same variable. Those variables have the same exponents, so I'm going to put a box around negative 3x. Finally, this plus 9 is not a like term to 15x, so I'm not going to put a box around it. I'm going to change colors and I'm going to change shapes. I'm going to circle this positive 7y. Looking through to see if I have any more like terms. Positive 9 is a constant. It does not have the same variable, so it cannot get circled. And then finally, this constant, I'm going to give its own shape and color to. It's going to get a triangle because it is the only constant in this expression. After you have all of your like terms identified, now you're going to go through and link the ones that are like terms. So 15x and a negative 3x, those are like terms. 7y has no like terms in this expression, and 9 has no like terms in this expression. Now that they're linked, I'm going to go through and I'm going to add them. So adding 15x plus a negative 3x. Add the numbers, keep the variable. So 15 plus a negative 3 is 12. Keep the same variable, x. There is nothing to combine with 7y, so I'm just going to drop it straight down, plus 7y. And the same thing for the plus 9. There's nothing to combine it with, so I'm going to drop it straight down, so it is plus 9. This is my solution. You cannot combine any of these because they are not like terms with each other. If you get to this step and you are trying to combine something down here, it means that you did not identify and correctly combine like terms in the step before. When you get to this step right here, you should not be able to combine any of those terms. So we've now done it with all integers. Let's go through and do it with some decimals and fractions. Same thing, you're going to split your terms. So I see the minus, so I'm going to put a line in front of it. Now, very quickly, I want to note that this is 1x. For whatever reason, when there isn't a number in front of the variable, you guys tend to struggle with adding and subtracting them. So again, remember, when there's no number in front and it's just a variable, it's 1 of that variable. Now I'm going to go through and I'm going to identify like terms. So I'm going to put a box around 1x, and I'm looking for anything in this expression that has the same variable with the same exponent. So there's only other one term. It has an x. That x has the same variable, so I'm going to go ahead and put a box around this as well. Now they are like terms, so I'm going to go ahead and link them and combine them now. So remember, this is 1 plus a negative 35/100. If you struggle with adding and subtracting decimals that are positive and negative, use a calculator. So putting into your calculator 1 plus a negative 35/100. Oops, sorry. You should get 1 plus a negative 35/100. There we go. You should get it is 0 and 65/100. And remember, you keep the same variable x. Let's go ahead and do one with fractions in it. Same thing, split it by its terms. So here and here. So this expression has 3 terms in it. Identify like terms. I'm going to put a box around 1/2 x. And I'm going to look through to see if I can put boxes around any of the other terms. Negative 4 does not have the same variable, so I can't put a box around it. Plus 2/3 x has the same variable, has the same exponent, so I'm going to put a box around it. Okay, now I'm going to change colors and change shapes. Negative 4, that's a constant. There are no other constants, so I'm going to put a circle around this guy. And now I'm going to move to the linking. So we're going to link the like terms. So 1/2 x and a positive 2/3 x are like terms, so I'm going to link them. Negative 4 doesn't have any like terms, so I'm going to just leave it by itself. Now that I've found my like terms, I'm going to add the like terms. So 1/2 plus 2/3, add the numbers, keep the variable. You can add that in your calculator. 1/2 plus 2/3, if you do it in a calculator, it will give you 7/6 x. Remember, you would just add the numbers, keep the variable. So 1/2 plus 2/3 is 7/6, keep the x. And there's nothing to combine with the -4, so it just drops straight down, -4. And that is my solution. Remember, I cannot combine those any further. They are not like terms. There are 5 problems underneath it. Go ahead and work through those 5 problems. Pause the video, get them finished. When you're done, unpause the video and check your work with mine. All right, now that you've had a chance to do them, let's go ahead and go over them. This first one I'm going to split into my terms. Then I'm going to find my like terms. So 10y and a positive 3y are like terms. They have the same variables. I'm going to go ahead and link them. And these are the only 2 in this one, so now I'm going to add them. 10y plus 3y should leave me with 13y. For my next one, split it into its terms. Identify like terms. So 12x is going to get a box. Negative 8 does not get a box. Negative 4x gets a box. They have the same variable. Those variables have the same exponents. And then I have another negative 8 that also does not get a box. Okay, up next, we're going to go back through, and I see I have a constant here. So I'm going to put it in a circle. Looking through the expression, I see I have another constant right here. So I'm also going to give it a circle. Now I go back through and I link the like terms. So 12x and a negative 4x are like terms because they have the same variable and the same exponent on the variable. Negative 8 and a negative 8 are also like terms because they're both constants, and constants are always like terms. Now I'm going to add my like terms. Remember, we always add. So 12 plus a negative 4 leaves me with 8. So this is 8x. And then a negative 8 plus a negative 8 is a negative 16, so I write minus 16. And that is my solution. Over here, split up our terms. Okay, going through and identifying which ones are like terms. Negative 5 is a constant, so I'm going to give it a box. Looking through, positive 2y, I'm not giving it a box because it's not a constant, it has a variable. Negative 6x is also not getting a box because it is not a constant. Positive 10 is a constant. It is a number with no variable attached, so it gets a box. And then finally in the expression is a negative 3y. It's not a constant, so I'm not going to give it a box. So I'm going to change colors, and I'm going to go back through with another shape. So I'm going to circle my positive 2y. Now anything that is considered a like term to that, I'm going to circle as well. So I am not going to circle negative 6x because they don't have the same variable. Moving down to a negative 3y, I'm going to circle that one because they have the same variable and those variables have the same exponent. Last but not least, I'll have to change colors and shapes one more time. I see a negative 6x. It gets its own shape and color because it is the only one of its kind in here. Now I'm going to go back through and I'm going to link my like terms. So negative 5 links to a positive 10. Positive 2y links to a negative 3y. And that negative 6x doesn't have anything to link to. So it's just going to stay here by itself. Now we're going to combine our like terms. Remember, to combine like terms, we have to add. So I'm going to add negative 5 to a positive 10. When I add them, I get 5. I'm going to add 2y to a negative 3y. 2 plus a negative 3 is a negative 1y. So 2y plus negative 3y is negative 1y. And that minus 6 doesn't have anything to combine with it. So it simply drops down and is a minus 6x. There's nothing else that I can combine in these because they're not like terms. So that is my solution. Moving over to the decimal. First thing I'm going to do is split my terms. Okay, remember this is 1x also. I'm going to put a box around 1x, and I'm going to look through and find all of the terms that are like terms to 1x. I see I have a negative 0 and 42/100x. They are like terms. They have the same variable, and that variable has the same exponent, so I'm also going to put a box around that guy. I'm going to go ahead and link them because I know that they're like terms, and then I am going to add them. Remember, add the numbers in front, keep the same variable. So 1 plus a negative 0 and 42/100 gives me 58/100, and then keep the x. So 1x minus 0 and 42/100x is 0 and 58/100x. Last one on this one. First thing I'm going to do is split them up by their terms. And then I'm going to identify all of their like terms. So I'm going to start with 1/4 x, putting it in a box. I'm not going to put 5 in a box because it doesn't have the same variable. Plus 3/4 x, I'm going to put it in a box because it has the same variable, and that variable has the same exponent. Negative 6 does not get a box because it doesn't have the same variable, and the positive 2x gets a box because it has the same variable and the same exponent. Now I'm going to go back through, and I'm going to circle positive 5. Positive 5 is a constant. Negative 6 is also a constant, so I'm going to go ahead and circle that one. Oh, that's not a circle. There we go. Now we go through and we link our like terms. So notice this time that I actually have 3 like terms that I would need to link together for that. And then I'm actually going to change colors here too. I have these two like terms that I would be linking together. To combine like terms, we are always adding them. So first I'm going to add 1/4 x plus 3/4 x plus 2x. You can add all of those numbers in your calculator. Do 1/4 plus 3/4 plus 2x. When you do it all in your calculator, you should get that it is 3x. And now I'm going to combine my two constants. So 5 plus a -6. If you're not sure, do it in your calculator. You should get that it is a -1, so I write -1. This is my answer because I cannot combine that any further because they're not like terms. So my solution is 3x minus 1. Okay, finally for this notes, we are just going to do a couple of these examples because your homework doesn't actually have any problems like this, but you should know that this is something that you can do with combining like terms. So when simplifying an algebraic expression, apply the distributive property first and then combine your like terms. So when you see you have 2 times and then in your parentheses you have x plus 7 and then you see the -10, with this part of the expression you have to use the distributive property to simplify it and then go back and combine like terms. So remember for this, when we did it with distributive property before, remember we split our terms in our parentheses and we said 2 terms, that's 2 boxes, so 2 boxes. And then something goes in front, above, and above. Remember the 2 goes in front of the boxes because it's in front of the parentheses. X goes above the first box, and remember that's 1x. And then the plus 7 goes above the second box. Remember you have to take the operation sign with you when you put it above the box. So 2 times 1x, multiply the numbers, keep the variables. So 2 times x is 2x. And then 2 times a positive 7 is a positive 14. And then you rewrote that expression underneath. 2x plus 14. And now that you've distributed, see how you had this -10 just sort of hanging out here at the back that you haven't used yet? You're just going to simply drop it right back down here and write -10 or -10 at the end. Now we're back to an expression that you need to combine like terms with. So you're going to split it by its terms, and you're going to go through and identify which ones are like terms. So I'm going to put a box around 2x. I cannot put a box around 14 because it doesn't have the same variable, and I cannot put a box around the -10 because it also doesn't have the same variable. So I'm going to change colors and shapes now, and I'm going to put a circle around my positive 14. It is a constant. -10 is also a constant, so I'm going to put a circle around this one as well. Finally, I'm going to go through and I'm going to link my like terms. So a positive 14 and a -10 were my only like terms, so I'm going to add them. The 2x, there's nothing to combine it with, so remember we'll just drop it straight down, so 2x. And 14 plus a -10 leaves me with a positive 4, so I write plus 4. And this expression cannot be combined any further, so that is my solution. We'll do one more just so you can see how it works again, and then we'll be finished with these notes. So first we look at this section right here that we need to distribute first. So we're going to split our terms in the parentheses and set up our boxes. 2 boxes means 2 terms means 2 boxes. Something goes in front, above, and above. The 3 is in front of the boxes, so it goes in, it's in front of the parentheses, so it goes in front of the boxes. 2x goes above the first box, and the -3 goes above the second box. Multiply to get what goes inside. 3 times 2x leaves me with 6x, and 3 times a -3 leaves me with -9. So I am left with 6x minus 9, and then this plus 5 we haven't used drops straight down, and I write plus 5. Finally, I'm going to go back through. I'm going to split by my terms, identifying my like terms. So 6x is going to get a box. Looking through my other terms, -9 is not a like term. It doesn't have the same variable. And +5 is not a like term because it doesn't have the same variable. After I do that, I'm going to go back through and find like terms to -9. Remember, -9 is a constant, so I'm looking for other constants. +5 is also a constant, so I'm going to give it a circle as well. We'll go back through and we will link the terms that are like terms. So these are my like terms. When it gets to it, I will add them. So 6x doesn't have anything to combine with it, so I'm going to drop it straight down. 6x and a -9 plus a +5 is a -4, so I'm going to write -4. This cannot be combined any further, so my answer is 6x - 4.